from our expert in the big data and relational data schemes. Okay, he's Mr. Gautam Pathak. He's the chief architect and director of GSPL, and today he will want to help us, all of us, understand the industry insights for aspiring professionals like you in the field of IT and data science. So, we know that these two are one of the most upcoming fields, and no better than Mr. Gautam Pathak to help us understand what the industry on these two domains is, and what do we need to get prepared for this industry. So, can I request Gautam Pathak to please join us?
Sure, Shalini. You have given me a whole lot of encomiums which I really don't deserve. But nonetheless, I'll try my best to share whatever little I have learned over the last 22 years.
Oh, great. So nice having you, and I'm sure our learners who are freshers in this domain will benefit immensely from your experience, Mr. Pathak.
Well, I think today's generation is far smarter than what we were at their age.
To
be very honest, we didn't even know how to pinpoint our own backside in the good old days. And these kids are much smarter than what we are. So, but nonetheless, I can at least share whatever little experience that I have gained over the last 2 decades or more. Good evening, everyone. So let's start.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening,
Good
sir.
evening, sir. Welcome.
Good evening, sir.
So
Good evening, sir.
all raring to get into the job market with the skill sets that you have gathered at NIT and in your educational institutions. At the very outset, let me just tell you something that everybody whom I come across wants to be a developer, okay, or a software engineer. Though these are not two interchangeable terms, they are very different. A software developer is not the same as a software engineer. These are two very different roles, though they share a whole lot of common functionalities per se, but they are not the same. But think about it, there's so many other avenues open in the IT industry. Things like business analysts, designers, DevOps, system administrators, DBAs, cloud specialists. Trust me, it's extremely difficult to get a person who knows how to configure a VM on Azure or a AWS cloud instance. So, data science specialists, for that matter. So, IT industry is not just one monolith. So, when we interview people, we like to see varied interests. And trust me, no particular field is lesser than the other. A good Linux system administrator is perhaps as valuable in terms of remuneration as perhaps a senior software developer. But unfortunately or fortunately, the vision is completely blinkered. And everybody wants to be a software developer. Who's going to do the rest of the jobs? Come to think of it. That's a very basic question which I put across to everyone. There's so many things. Today in the industry, there's a huge shortage of UI UX people who can design user experience across a process or across a functionality. It's very difficult to find these people. And more often than not, we have to double up as UI UX designers because there's a huge shortage of such people in the industry. Having said that, now let me come down to the basics. When I interview somebody for a job of a software developer, let's say, what am I seeking? What you have learned at NIT is the last thing I want to test you on. Trust me on that. what you have learned in NIT is the last thing I want to test you on, because I know that institution has done a good job on whatever they have tried to infuse into you. But I am more interested in your basics. Do you know your basic math, 9th grade math? I have had questions from candidates and they turn around and ask me, you know, sir, how am I supposed to use this? How is this going to be useful for me? And I said, if you do not know the difference between an arithmetic round or a math round, how on earth are you going to design an invoicing function if required? It's a very basic question. Now, these are the things which any institution, professional institution which gives you a professional course, offers you a professional course, is not going to give to you. They're not supposed to do that, for God's sake. And if you expect that from them, it's foolhardy of you. You have to work on yourself. Okay, you were busy in the canteen, or you were playing around, or you were not very serious in your high school. But trust me, that high school math is critical for you later on in life. That is as far as basic computing knowledge goes, okay? The basic mathematical knowledge goes. Things like processes. What is a process? What is a thread? What are sockets? What is memory allocation? And this, trust me, is neutral, agnostic to whatever course you're doing. You could be doing Spring Boot, you could be doing Struts, you could be doing Python, anything. It doesn't really matter. This is the basic skill set that you require if you want to grow as a software developer and an engineer. You want to get into the side of technology without knowing the basics. I have seen freshers come to our organization and struggle with their computers. They don't know how to set up the class path. They do not know how to set up the path variables. They feel completely lost when I open a shell prompt in front of them. They have absolutely no idea. They have no idea about debugging. They have no idea about basic logging. No matter what platform you're working on, these are basic skill sets. And you have to make an effort. The worst thing is you come in the interview and say, you know, sir, I'm going to learn this once I get into the job. Do you think that's a valid answer?
No, sir. After learning, we should come to job.
Exactly. At least get hold of your basics. At least get hold of your basics. You want to drive a car without knowing anything about the vehicle that you are about to drive. So you don't know where the tires are, you don't know where to put the engine coolant, you don't know where to put the engine oil, the brake oil, and you want to drive the car. And we feel very galled at this. We feel very irritated at this, that you have come in and you've got great education, you've done a great course at NIT. These people have tried their best to train you in that particular stack or platform. And then you are completely unaware of the basics. The word debugging, it sounds so simple, but trust me, that is one thing which is going to drive your success later on. That is one thing which is going to drive your success. When you get that ubiquitous null pointer exception, that's when you're going to start racking your head, how on earth do I find out where it's coming in from? So at least put in some effort. Don't expect your teachers to do this for you. The internet is awash with such quality content which comes at zero cost. You don't have to pay a dime. All you need is an internet connection and a laptop, which I think is available with everyone. I'm sure you people buy data packs to put up your videos and reels and whatnot and TikToks. So I'm sure you have those data plans with you. Go on YouTube. Put in some effort, because that also tells me that you're passionate about your job. So just telling me, you know, sir, right from the beginning, when I was a kid, I was interested in computers. Good Lord, that's not enough. If you were interested, show me that interest. How do I know you are interested? Or you just telling me fibbing? Because that's the most common answer which I get whenever I interview people coming from mechanical, from ECE, people coming from such diverse backgrounds, and I ask them, why computers? Oh, sir, I was interested right from my childhood. So if you were interested, why didn't you take CS? Very few people, trust me, have the honesty and the courage to tell me, sir, I couldn't compete. I couldn't get that branch. And that is why I opted for whatever I got. But I had my interest. And these are such and such things which I did, which proved my interest. I have my son who's now about to be an engineer. He hates computers, trust me. And he told me, I hate what you do. You have got uneven working hours. I don't want to be what you are doing. I said, okay, fair enough. Do whatever you feel like doing. And he's candid and he's honest about accepting the fact that, hey, I don't like it. However, I understand that you people are also serious about your careers. You understand that there is a huge demand within this sector, and you can get a decent job and a decent growth in your life if you pursue this field. No problem. Absolutely fair. There's nothing wrong in it. But put in that effort. Show me your passion. For God's sake, you're going to do this job for the next 35 years of your life, 30 to 35 years. Because these days, the productive lifespan of a corporate worker is at least till 60 years of age, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If you want to be doing the same thing for the next 35 years or 34 years of your life, and you're not interested in it, trust me, you're not going to be good at it. This industry is very unforgiving. Very, very unforgiving. In the initial stages, it's very easy to get jobs. Hey, you know what? We all require people. We're growing. We are starved of good resources. We pick on. At times, we also pick on by compromising on our standards, by the way, because we are so hard pressed for resources. We do that. But will you grow? No, sorry, you won't. And the day you cross your 35th year, and you're not good at what you do, you're out of the job market. Because there are 10 other people, youngsters like you, who are there to fill in your shoes. So initially, there's a euphoria, I've got 5 placement offers, and I'm going to rock this world. I'm going to be the next king of this world. All this sounds great, but you need to back it up with hard work and passion. And please do not expect this from your college professors or your professional institutions which give you, offer you these courses, places like an IIT for that matter. They're not supposed to do this for you. You were supposed to do this in your high school. You didn't do it. So you better do it at your own cost and at your own time. Now, I ask people, what are sockets? And they'll start scratching their head. What are sockets? Sir, I haven't read about it. Good Lord, that's not an answer. How many of you have written a program and post that written a test program to test it? How many of you have written a unit test? Your teacher won't ask you to do that, perhaps. Or even if they do, they would be hard pressed because they have to push in so much of knowledge to you within a short span of time. So let's say you have joined a course for 6 months or 8 months. So there's a huge amount of information which they have to push into you. Now they're not going to put in their time to encourage you to write unit tests. But should you do it? Yes. God damn, you should do it. Because then later on, when you are completely caught unawares, you will have no answers and you will be, obviously, these things come to the fore later on in life. Not initially. You won't feel the need to do these things initially because you'll be spoon-fed. In all probability, You would get into a company which will train you, which would want you to be productive as soon as possible. Later on, you have to learn these skill sets. And the first and the most important thing out of this entire exercise is the passion. Word passion.
Manas, please mute.
Manas,
There's
Host,
some
can
kind
you
of,
let him know?
please
people
mute
are
yourself.
slightly-
Can I request everyone to please mute their lines? I think it's professional ethics to please mute your lines when you are in a session like this. Thank you.
So kind of you. So for heaven's sakes, look up the bash commands. You should understand what bash is. You should know what a shell command is, shell prompt is. Don't look completely lost. You should know something about operating system, because you're going to work on the operating system, because you're going to work on our applications. So, for example, one of my favorite questions is, how would your programming get determined whether you are going to deploy your app on a RISC processor or a CISC processor? So the first shocker is, what is RISC and what is CISC? And how does that impact your programming? You want to get into low-end coding, then obviously you don't require this knowledge. You're not supposed to know all these things. But if you are ambitious, you want to become a good software developer, then yes, these things do matter. They definitely do. Be comfortable with an IDE or an editor. At least once in your life, try to code on a text pad, notepad. Open your notepad, write a piece of code. I know it's very painful. I know it's very, very unnerving, but try to do that. Try to go down to the basic layers wherein you know how the whole system works. Anyways, that's enough about basic knowledge. And just to add on to it, people who want to make a career in data sciences, you be very sure that your statistics should be very good. Pick up your Freund and Walpole, go through data distributions. You should know what is chi-square, what is normal distributions. You know, what are tests? How do we test sample data? These things are important. It's not necessary that you have studied it before. You can always pick up this skill anytime you want. It doesn't take rocket science. It doesn't take rocket science. Basic principles of object-oriented programming. You're going to need it everywhere. Again, whatever I'm telling you is neutral to the platform that you want to work on. Doesn't matter. You may be interested in Python. You may be interested in Spring Boot with Java. It doesn't matter. These things are common. And we expect you to know at least the basics. At least the basics. These are some of the expectations which we carry when we meet a candidate. Are these fulfilled? No, not very often. I'll be honest with you, not very often. But yes, that is a wish list that we carry with ourselves. It doesn't matter. You may have been a math graduate or instrumentation engineer. Doesn't really matter. It's never too late. It's not a crime to wanting to get into the IT industry, but at least demonstrate that you really want to do it. That demonstration is very necessary. You know, seldom I come across candidates who say, you know, see, sir, this is what I have created, which is not a part of my project work, by the way. It's something independent that I have done on myself, with myself, and have a look at it. It may not be very great. It may be very basic, but you know what? That gives me a huge insight into you, that you are passionate about what you want to do and you're willing to go that extra step to do it. And I'm sure you have teachers around you, educators, mentors, who would be more than happy to help you. Trust me, nothing gives more pleasure to a teacher than to see an enthusiastic and proactive student. There are a lot of teachers in this session. I think they should bear out what I have said. Okay, I think I have given you enough gyan about expectations. Let's come down to a thing like data science. The good part of the story is that there's a huge demand for it. Trust me, right from Tesla to a brick and mortar company like Toshiba, they all want to work on data sets. So autonomous driving, it's all data science, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
It's all data science. So every business unit would want to, leverage the data that they have gathered. Now you poor fellow are in the unenviable task of making sense out of it. The unfortunate part is that nobody knows anything about it. They all want it, but they don't know what it is. So, and since it's a new field, you'll be hard pressed to find people who can guide you. So maybe you land as a job as a data scientist. You'll be asked to solve a problem without any guidance. They expect you to be a know-all. That is the expectation which the business carries to the tech team. See, you are the data scientist, you figure it out. But for that, you have to understand the business. You have to understand psychology. You have to understand the quality of the data which you have at your disposal. There's so many behavioral sciences comes into play. There's so many things apart from the technical skill set that which you have picked up from your institution. And you have to, in most cases, it's a lone warrior, because companies are still experimenting with this field. They all have caught on to the buzzword. They all talk about it, but very few people have any idea about what really it is. And they would expect you to know everything. That's the best part of the story. They would expect you to know everything. But then you have to develop the sense to work along with the software engineers, analysts. It is not an easy job, but yes, it has got tremendous potential. And gradually you'll find that machine learning, anything which you can think of would be relying itself on data sets. That is what it is about. So don't just think about the technology. Think about the business which you are getting into. You should understand the processes, the kind of data which you have been offered to work on, the quality. For example, I'll give you a very, very, very topical kind of example. You know the psephologists who come up with these exit polls and they make these predictions just before the elections and right after elections have happened. That is data analysis. That is data science, by the way. Now, to give you a very small example, in some states, you'll find that the results are never accurate. And I was sitting with a very senior psephologist, and I asked him, why does this happen? Because your predictions in elsewhere work fine, but when you go to this particular state, they always tend to fail, or they are not very accurate. So he told me, Gautam, you know what? People in that state are very reticent, very hesitant to give out their opinion for the fear of reprisals. So they will give you an opinion which matches with the crowd. They may not subscribe to it, but they will give you an opinion which matches the crowd around them because they do not want to confront. They do not want to get beaten up, for expressing their true opinions. So that is a part of behavioral science, wherein you see how human behavior impacts the quality of data. So it's very interesting. It's very challenging, and it's an amazing field. So if any of you have decided to take on a profession as a data analyst or a data scientist, trust me, you're going to have a roller coaster ride, but very satisfying and very fulfilling. Not to mention also very paying, because gradually this entire field is going to mature and is going to be a great contributor in the success of businesses in coming years. So try to find yourself a good mentor. If you can't, please go on the internet. There's some amazing people who have, giving their knowledge free of cost. So you have your technical skill set, your tools in hand, and then try to implement them. Do not wait for your job. Pick on any data set, try to work on it. You may not be completely successful, you may not be 100% right, doesn't matter. At least attempt. That gives us a lot of confidence that we are selecting a candidate who is serious about this and is proactive, is making an individual effort to learn on his own, on his or her own. SQL, production deployments. You shouldn't look lost. Okay, for example, I think both Amazon as well as Microsoft give you a 30-day trial on AWS and Azure. Am I right?
Sir, free of cost.
Free of cost. So why don't you make an account, try it out, make a small app, deploy it, see what PaaS is, what infra as service is, try to make a small VM, deploy, try your hands with Docker. There's so many things which you can do. It doesn't take rocket science if you can read and write basic English. Coming to that, I'll come on to that topic right after this. Try to do it. Doesn't matter. 30 days is a long time. Yes, you're going to miss your TV shows. You're going to miss your TikTok. You're going to miss your YouTube. Yes, that's a fact, whether you like it or not. But if you want to grow in life, you have to make this sacrifice. And it's a continuous process. Just like a doctor who has to upgrade himself or herself continuously as long as they're productive, so are we. Every day there's something new which is getting launched. You should at least read about it to be able to evaluate it. Don't go by what I say, because I'll carry my own prejudices and biases. You have to form your own opinion. There's so many new technologies that get launched every day. Are they all going to be successful? No. Everybody is talking about so many new languages, platforms. How many of them have actually found their way in the enterprise space? Very few. Very few. I have no truck with any technology or any platform, trust me. I'm the last person, because I think any tool, any platform which can give you the desired results is good. Doesn't really matter what it is. But think about it. Even today, Oracle Financials, a good percentage of that is still based on Java Swings API, which I think you people don't even know about. It is so old. They haven't changed. So We want to learn new things, but you have to understand from a job perspective, the enterprise architecture moves very slowly. It doesn't change overnight because there are millions and billions of dollars in investment which have gone in. They just can't junk any entire platform and migrate to something new. It's not possible. It's not possible. A full product development life cycle lasts at least a decade. Today, we are still on Struts. We are migrating to Spring Boot. We haven't done the whole thing, by the way. We haven't done the whole thing. We're still struggling, still trying to find ways, and how we going to construct the microservices architecture, how we are going to deploy those components. So it is a huge job. And then I have got more than a dozen customers who would have to be migrated to the new platform. Along with each customization, mind you. And this won't be a paid activity. We have to bear the cost. Okay, I told you I would come to on the topic of communication. Even though all of you are extremely articulate and confident, and I find you people much more confident and articulate compared to us. But please do not ignore your communication skill set. Whether you like it or not, nobody wants a person. You may be very intelligent. You may be great. You would have a very sharp mind. Nobody is debating on that. But if I cannot understand you and you cannot understand me as a manager, what good is your intelligence?
Not worth it.
Not for us.
A lot of people ignore this. Trust me, this is going to be one single minor factor which will make or break your career. I have seen so many talented young people, very intelligent, very sharp, failing because they fail to communicate with their team, their customer, or internally with their manager. So what do? Watch any good news channel, not the crap which you, maybe BBC, that's a great news channel. See how people talk. Stand in front of a mirror, talk to yourself. Be confident. You don't have to be grammatically correct all the time. As far as you can convey what you are thinking is more than sufficient. You don't have to be Arundhati Roy, so that you know all the flowery language, and you don't have to be a Shashi Tharoor. Let me put it that way. As long as you can convey your ideas and you can comprehend what you are listening to, that is more than sufficient. That's more than sufficient. Read a book, for God's sake. I don't know whether you people read books or not, but pick on any book, any genre that you like, go through it, read books. Now you also have things like Kindle, digital platforms in which you can get content. Try talking to your friends, practice with your friends. It's very important. It's very important. So I don't want to depress you all the way. I'm sure most of you have already done all these things. You guys are very smart. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself or I have underestimated you. I would not even think about doing that. All of you are very smart, very brilliant. You have a great future ahead of you. If you can build in these things into your repertoire or your skill set, nothing can stop you from being successful. Nothing. There's a huge demand, huge demand. Trust me, today in this country, you cannot be without a job. You cannot be, even if you want to. because our economy is growing at a rapid pace. There's growth across the sectors. Doesn't really matter. And we are the enablers. The IT is an enabling sector. We enable businesses. We enable ideas. So our demand is only going to go up and up. You just need to prove that you can do it. And that by saying alone will not happen. You have to back it up with action. Intent should always be backed up by action. And doesn't take much. Small little things. Go into an interview, carry your program, not your project work, something independent. It'll go a long way. I think I should end my diatribe or a monologue now. Danish, you can take over now and let me know if anything else is required from my end.
Yes, I would request Shalini ma'am, in case if anything is required, so please let us know.
Yeah. No, I think it has been a good session, Mr. Pathak, and I'm sure each of them have understood what they need to prepare for as they set up themselves. So if you have some time, I'd like to take few questions from our audience.
Please shoot.
There is a question in the chat box. If you could help someone, Pawan, understand about Salesforce as a CRM. I mean, if that comes in your...
I really don't have much exposure on this platform, madam, but I have seen a lot of implementations with my customers because most of my customers are moving on to Salesforce. And I won't be able to contribute much to it, to be very honest, because I've never gone into the depths of it, but I have seen a couple of implementations in my time. It's a great platform. It provides amazing APIs, extensions, and I think it is going to do even better in future. They're really adding on features to their platform. They're making it stronger every day, and a whole lot of corporates are moving on to it, and they have got a very integrated approach. So if you get onto the Salesforce platform, you get a one-stop solution. So as he rightly pointed out, chatbot, they have done some amazing work on NLP. And along with AI and NLP, they have come up with a brilliant product, which you will find is powering most of the chat functionalities which you come across on the major platforms, be it corporate platforms or e-commerce platforms. And since they also are the repository of, let's say, other data, corporate data, it's very easy for them to link up. So it becomes an integrated kind of a platform wherein you have a chatbot which would have access to the underlying data sets, underlying transactional data. So you don't have to create fresh interfaces. You don't have to create fresh hooks. So that's about it. I really can't go beyond that.
Yeah, I think that should help Pawan understand. Of course, as you begin your course on Salesforce development, if you have enrolled for it, you will get more information, Pawan. There is a question, Gautam, on cybersecurity, DevOps, cloud computing. If you could just help the audience understand some little bit on that.
Okay. So just an anecdote. I came across a pretty senior IT professional who was, to be very honest, quite lost with this concept of cloud. So we were discussing and he said, why don't you just put everything on cloud? I said, you're very right, sir, because he was my potential customer. I couldn't, ruffle his feathers. I said, sir, that is okay, but there is still underlying hardware. So he said, yeah, I know that. But we can have redundancy, we can have seamless expansion. There's no issue. I said that also requires hardware, sir. And unless you are planning to get into the realm of parallel computing, which is a very different science, by the way, you just can't daisy chain machines and expand. It's not possible. It's just not possible. And you can still encounter hardware failures, even if you're on cloud. Because, hey, there's still a server. There's still a server which is required. You virtualize that and it becomes the cloud. Okay. So you're basically making the hardware transparent. So now obviously things have gone far beyond that. So now we have the concept of Dockerization, wherein even the OS is becoming transparent. So you put everything, you put in your Tomcat, you put in your DB, everything into your container, and you deploy it. So you don't have to configure your app server and your DB server and the rest of the whole shebang every time you want to make a deployment. So everything gets contained in the container. You don't have to worry about the versioning system. So something which works on, let's say, Tomcat 8.5 may not work on Tomcat 10X. There's a huge change. So maybe on another instance, somebody has provided you, your provisioning team has given you Tomcat 10, and then you're lost. And that involves a huge amount of code change, by the way. So you're basically creating transparency at every layer. So, but yes, that is the future. There's no escape from that, because management becomes much easier. It has its downside, by the way. But that is the way it's going to happen. You asked about something else also, other than cloud.
Yeah, so they are asking about the scope of cloud computing, which I think you have covered, stating that that's going to be the future. Yeah,
That
makes
is
management easier.
Yes. And cloud computing is not a monolith again. As I told you, get yourself a free account. The various permutations and combinations. So for example, creating a VM was the very basic level of cloud computing, so that, hey, I have this requirement, I have this application I require, I have provisioned myself. So you go onto your cloud platform, you provision a VM for yourself. Let's say with 64 GB of RAM, maybe 8 cores, amount of hard disk space, and you configure your instance. But now things have moved much beyond that. Now we have things like platform as a service. So you can subscribe to a, let's say, a Postgres or a MS SQL server as a service. You don't have to set it up yourself. You don't have to maintain it yourself. You just subscribe to it as a service. So that's called PaaS, platform as a service. You can even do that the same with your container. So things are moving very rapidly. Things are getting more and more layers are getting separated from each other, essentially. So my developer shouldn't be bothered about the hardware layer. It should be transparent to him. It doesn't really matter what the hardware layer is. My developer should be confident and comfortable in just deploying his application. So the infra team should be responsible for taking care of the rest of the issues. Similarly, I don't want the complexity of setting up a database, configuring it. Let that be with the DBA. I should get it as a service, plug and play. So I need a data storage. I have the available. I just simply subscribe to it, and lo and behold, I have up and running application in a couple of hours. Anything else, ma'am?
Hello.
I can't hear you. I think you're muted.
There were questions on full stack developers, full stack, programming. What are the scope?
Yes, sir. Sir,
Full stack developer.
This
Sir,
is
few words for
Yeah.
full stack developers.
See, I have seen in detail the course which is being offered by this organization, NIT. I personally think it's been designed very, very logically and scientifically. Trust me on that. And not because these people have invited me, but I have gone through their course content. I have seen how they have structured it. But obviously, it is pretty advanced. Again, as I told you, you have to have a certain level to be able to leverage this course properly. So they're not going to teach you about Java memory management. Obviously, they won't. But that's your job. You need to do that. You need to do that. They'll teach you the collections framework, the data structures, but you need to try them out. It's an amazing full stack program. It's highly in demand. The skill sets that you are acquiring within this program are in demand. Trust me, they are, because you people are doing React for UI UX,
Angular, sir. Angular.
Angular or React, equally good. Both are equally good. Then on the server side, they are exposing you to the Spring Boot. That is the future, because Spring Boot allows you to get into the microservices architecture. So yes, it is in great demand, but please also put in your own effort on the basics.
I think that's most important. Yeah, that's most important.
I think so, Shalini ji, because do not try to build a building without a foundation.
Yes, yes.
That, I think, is the biggest crime that you can do against yourself. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much. Most of these kids are very intelligent. It's just a matter of driving yourself into doing it. That's it.
Yeah. So I think that has been a real good takeaway for these students today.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to talk, you can unmute. Maybe we'll take another one or two before we wind up the session, please.
Yes.
Good evening, ma'am. Vibhor this side. Sir.
Yes, Vibhor.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So nowadays in industry, we are seeing that they are asking for mobile engineers.
Okay.
Because nowadays we are using laptops, either laptop or tab for further programming. That's why I want to ask.
Tell me something, Vibhor. What is a mobile engineer? What do you understand by this term?
Sir, actually, I don't know about this term. But,
okay. Let me put it very, very in layman terms. What is a mobile phone? It's a compute engine. It's got a CPU. It's got RAM, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Right.
It will have an OS. Unfortunately, Windows has not been able to make an inroad into the mobile platform, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Right.
So your entire landscape is dominated by Android or iOS, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Now the problem was why Windows couldn't make a foray or a entry into this segment was very simple. They built their operating system for a complex instruction set CPU, which is Intel. Intel is an ideal CISC processor because it gives you a good compute power at very low cost. But when you put in a small form factor, this is a small form factor, CISC processing doesn't work out because the heat dissipation is huge. So you have to get into RISC processing, reduced instruction set. So all the ARM processors, ARM processors, are essentially RISC processors. They may not be as fast as Intel, but they get the job done. You remember initially Windows Phone were launched and there used to be so much of problem of heating.
Yes, sir.
Intel also came into the mobile platform, trust me. So you don't have to get worried about it. It's just a compute engine. It's just a computer. That's it. It's got a compute engine, it's got an ALU, it's got RAM, and it's got an operating system. So you will remain a software engineer or a software developer. Doesn't matter what you're programming on. It doesn't matter. It could be a AIX server, it could be an Intel server, it could be a mobile phone. Doesn't really matter. And even on mobile, the backend, the data storage, the app engine, it's all going to be on the server. It's not going to be on the mobile phone, is it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Right.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So everything is going to coexist. This platform is a miniature computer with a smaller interface. That's it. Don't get worried about it. So this concept of mobile engineer is nothing but to confuse. There's no such thing as you are a software engineer or you are a software developer. That's it. What you work on is something of your own choice. The server is still going to remain. The mobile is still going to remain. Yes, for day-to-day jobs, let's say I as a manager, what are my tasks? I want to see reports. I want to see my dashboard. I want to check my emails. So I'd rather than carrying a bulky laptop on which I'm talking to you people, I'd rather carry this handset. This also has got the team application. This also has got the Zoom application. So I can do almost everything. But if I'm a data analyst and I have to do a whole lot of number crunching, open huge Excel files, then obviously mobile is not going to suffice, is it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
If you try to do that job on mobile, you're going to have specs very soon.
Everything has its own work.
Exactly. And they are all going to survive. They are all going to survive. They're all going to survive. No, nothing is going anywhere. Mobile is just another window into compute. That's it. That's it. And you want to
Got
work
it,
on
sir.
mobile apps, then you select any platform of your choice. You could go Android native, you could go React, you could go Angular, because that's the advantage of these JavaScript-based languages. They allow you to create an app which is compatible with the browser on laptop as well as your mobile screen. You can convert any browser-based app into a mobile app.
Responsive. Yeah.
So don't get worried about this. It's something very normal. Don't get overawed. Don't get confused by these terminologies.
Yeah, got it, sir.
Thank you, Gautam, for this elaborate response, I think, which everybody would have found useful. So let's close the session today. We've had a very good interaction with you, Gautam. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
And we look
Pleasure was
forward
all
to
mine.
meeting you again. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for